A group of friends set out for what was supposed to be an adventurous weekend, hiking through the dense forests of Oregon. The air was crisp, the trees towering, and the sound of wildlife filled the spaces between them. But as they trekked deeper, an uneasy feeling settled over the group, an invisible weight pressing down from above. Shadows moved where they shouldn't, and distant sounds of snapping branches echoed unnaturally through the stillness. By nightfall, the first friend vanished without a trace. Panic spread like wildfire. Tents were found ripped apart, belongings scattered, and the remaining friends realized something far more sinister than an ordinary forest had claimed their companion. Emma Carter, an investigative journalist known for exposing hidden dangers, received a tip about the forest and the mysterious disappearances. Compelled by curiosity and a sense of responsibility, she packed her gear and drove to the edge of the forest. As she stepped into the wilderness, a cold wind swept through, carrying with it whispers that seemed almost human. She realized that the forest was not only alive, but aware of her presence, watching, waiting, and hunting. Emma's first night in the forest was sleepless. Shadows shifted in unnatural ways, appearing in the corner of her vision and disappearing when she looked directly. Twigs cracked under unseen weight, and whispers in an unfamiliar tongue teased her ears. The forest seemed to pulse around her, each rustle and movement echoing like the heartbeat of something immense. As dawn approached, she stumbled upon remnants of previous hikers, a torn jacket, a backpack half buried in mud, and a journal with entries describing similar experiences, people disappearing one by one, consumed by fear before the forest itself. Emma sensed that the darkness wasn't just metaphorical. It was a living, intelligent force that fed on life and terror alike. The path ahead twisted and doubled back on itself, confusing her sense of direction. Every step she took seemed anticipated, every rustle in the undergrowth a calculated threat. The forest was aware she had come, and it had already begun hunting her, letting her feel the weight of its gaze before striking. As Emma delved deeper, she encountered a ranger named Jake Thompson, who had been tracking the disappearances for months. Together, they discovered a clearing marked by deep claw marks and symbols carved into the trees. It was clear that the forest didn't merely hide its victims, it displayed them as warnings. Footprints appeared overnight, leading to areas no human had passed, and sounds of growls echoed through the night. One evening, while setting up camp, shadows moved independently, stretching and twisting with malevolent intent. A sudden attack left one of their makeshift cameras shattered and a fellow hiker missing. Emma and Jake realized they were no longer visitors, they were prey. Each path they took seemed to lead them in circles, as if the forest itself guided them toward danger. Anxiety gripped them, but they pushed forward, determined to uncover the truth behind the forest's hunger. Each night brought new horrors, fleeting glimpses of figures with no faces, cries that echoed but came from no one, and a creeping sense that time itself was warped within the woods. They stumbled upon an old journal buried beneath fallen leaves, left by a hiker who vanished years ago. The entries spoke of a curse tied to the land, a malevolent presence that consumed both flesh and spirit. Symbols etched into the trees acted as protective barriers, yet they also hinted at rituals that might appease or repel the darkness. The deeper Emma and Jake ventured, the more violent the forest became. Trees shifted positions as if alive, branches forming barriers and striking with precision. Small animals were snatched and consumed before their eyes, leaving nothing but scattered bones. Emma realized that to survive, they needed to understand the forest's patterns, to think like the hunter rather than the hunted. Every shadow became a potential threat, every whisper a warning, Sleep was impossible, and trust between them was strained as fear warped perception. They knew the forest would not relent until they either succumbed or confronted the darkness at its source. Every attempt to flee led to frustration. Paths that seemed clear twisted into dead ends, the forest constantly reshaping itself to trap them. Fear became a tangible entity, pressing on their minds and testing their sanity. Emma and Jake witnessed horrifying scenes. Trees bending unnaturally, animals consumed in seconds, and whispers forming words that taunted them personally. The forest seemed to know their fears and used them against them. Their supplies dwindled, exhaustion set in, and they understood that survival required confronting the darkness rather than escaping it. Determined, they pushed forward to the heart of the forest, guided by fragments of old symbols and journal notes. With each step, the air thickened, the shadows grew more threatening, and a suffocating presence enveloped them. They were aware that one wrong move would end their lives, but surrendering was not an option. Every nerve was on edge, every sound amplified, as if the forest itself was orchestrating a symphony of terror aimed at them. Eventually, they reached a clearing where the darkness concentrated, a void in the forest that seemed to devour even light. Bones and decaying remnants of past victims littered the ground. Ritual symbols glowed faintly, offering a fragile sense of protection. The entity revealed itself briefly, an amorphous mass of shadows with glowing red eyes, pulsating with hunger. It attacked violently, sweeping through the clearing, destroying anything in its path. Emma managed to use the protective symbols she had deciphered from the journal, forcing the darkness to retreat momentarily. They realized that the entity was ancient, feeding on life and fear for generations. The forest was not merely a backdrop, but a living predator, one that had adapted to hunt and eliminate anyone who entered. Survival required more than courage. It demanded understanding, strategy, and the will to face a force beyond comprehension. The confrontation intensified as Emma and Jake tried to weaken the entity. The forest fought back with greater intelligence, branches lashing like arms, shadows multiplying, and the ground itself shifting to block escape. Jake was mortally wounded while defending Emma, sacrificing himself to give her a chance. Emma used her knowledge of the ritual symbols, drawing them into patterns on the ground and chanting incantations she barely understood. The darkness screamed and recoiled, the air trembling with malevolence, but it did not vanish entirely. Emma realized that the forest's hunger could only be postponed, not destroyed. The struggle left her physically and mentally scarred, but she managed to survive, stumbling away from the clearing as the first light of dawn broke through the canopy. Emma emerged from the forest at sunrise, bruised, battered, and forever changed. The media hailed her as a hero, yet her mind remained haunted by whispers and the feeling of unseen eyes following her every move. She returned to civilization, but subtle hints suggested the darkness had not left her behind. Shadows moved oddly in familiar places, and fleeting sounds echoed as if the forest itself had extended its reach. She understood that the entity's presence was enduring, patient, and intelligent, waiting for the next intrusion. Even though she survived, a chilling realization remained. Some darkness never truly lets go. In the distance, the forest seemed to breathe, and for a brief moment, she glimpsed a figure lurking at the tree line. The hunt was not over,